Hey there everyone, it's Haz here, and today we're checking out an upcoming bullet heaven game similar to Vampire Survivors, but set in a zombie apocalypse that is releasing tomorrow, I believe, called FatalZone Outbreak. I'm able to bring this video as I was offered an early key to the title to showcase it to you all, and while I normally don't play games such as this one, it actually looked pretty good on the trailers, and it's been a while since I played a fun zombie game, so let's take a look. For the most part, FatalZone is a standard bullet heaven game that you would expect nowadays, with hordes of zombies approaching on your chosen character while you're trying to find a path through all of them and drive them back. But with a twist that in FatalZone, as the enemy hordes get stronger and stronger, throwing more dangerous zombies at you, your goal is to level up your mercenary as much as possible and then try to escape through an evacuation helicopter that appears every couple of minutes randomly around your character. This is the main roguelite element and progression of FatalZone that sets it apart from your standard bullet heavens, and you also control a survivor camp where you can upgrade your buildings for several bonuses or better features, such as hiring more variations of mercenaries, upgrade your equipment, level up your apothecary for more frequent and closer evacuation helicopters, unlock new achievements that would reward you new skills and items, and of course the most important one, level up your mercenaries. All of these buildings will require upgrade materials you can gather out on your missions, but the unique part in FatalZone is that yes, you can hire mercenaries or your heroes from HQ of several classes, the survivor, the veteran, the tank, pyro, etc., and your goal is to take them out on missions, survive, and level them up by gaining experience, so you can specialize them with special talents to synergize more with certain builds, and then take them out on more and more challenging missions. While as you unlock new weapons, all mercenaries can choose any of them, but they all have their own specialty, like the pyro being better at, well, obviously fire weapons, or the tank specializing in melee projectile-based AoE attacks, so the different classes encourage different build styles. But beware, if your mercenary dies, you're back to square one, having to use someone else or hire a new one, which reminded me very much of my journeys in Darkest Dungeon, which is funny as FatalZone also has another familiar mechanic called mutations. Each time you take a mercenary out on a mission, they will not only become fatigued, but you also need to heal them after in the hospital, and they also gain either positive or negative perks called mutations that will either enhance or hold back a mercenary's abilities, which is a mechanic I really like, but sadly it seems it's quite easy to heal the negative mutations, and I think it would be much more interesting if these were randomized permanent perks. Now I think these are all the things that set FatalZone apart from the other Survivor games, and I personally quite like it, but let's take a look at some more gameplay and details that I could try, though I was allowed to only play the very beginning of the game. In the demo I tried, I only had one map, but apparently there will be at least 3 full zones on release, along with 6 distinct difficulty levels from Noob to Legend, which is quite impressive since I already had a lot of fun and challenge even on Noob. So the gameplay itself, like I said, is pretty standard bullet heaven, and if you don't know these games that much, it just means your character is automatically shooting around everything that's coming to kill you, and your aim is to level up, enhance your mercenary with crazier and crazier weapons and combinations while dodging the zombie horde approaching. Since so far I haven't noticed any super special enemies apart from the tankier zombies and bosses, I would say FatalZone does not try to impress the players with overly complicated enemy types, projectiles, and crazy effects. Instead, it's a very traditional bullet heaven of just approaching enemies, and while this might not seem so important, I personally have been really impressed by whatever algorithm they are using for the zombie spawning even on noob difficulty, as despite the overall simplicity of the enemies, it's balanced really well, and I've thoroughly enjoyed always trying to squeeze my character through narrow paths that are always seemingly available, and I never felt unfairly cornered or challenged, which I think is really important in this type of game. The pathing system is just right to always keep you properly engaged and encourage you to move. As you kill zombies, you will also pick up various experience orbs to level up, and then like normally, you can choose from various active or passive abilities you have unlocked through the achievements of the game for a total of 6 active and 6 passive skills. Currently, if the demo is correct, there should be around 50-ish abilities overall in the game, and it's hard to really say based on a demo experience if it feels enough or not, but it's kind of on the edge. There seems to be just enough to have a good variety of skills to build around, but the balance is also not so perfect that you end up using some of the same choices. That does make it feel like there's not as many of them, but I'm sure this part will improve and the developers can easily change it. This arsenal of weapons consists of submachine guns, shotguns, grenades, grenade launchers, and several other types of explosives and melee weapons too, that all have very familiar mechanics from similar titles, but because of the zombie setting, it does feel a bit more satisfying to see them in action, which in the end I think is what's really important in this genre. Another twist in Fatal Break is that with certain combinations of active and passive skills, called evolutions, you can also upgrade your weapons into completely new ones that can completely change the way it works. I tried out the frag grenades that now shoot out shrapnels across the whole screen, or the shotgun having enhanced projectiles that pierce through zombies in a longer range. We don't have access to everything from the start. Like I said, we have to complete achievements with different mercenaries that unlock the new fleshy things for combos, and I overall felt the progression is fun and also encourages trying new builds that are available at the moment while you're waiting for something new. So I would say the pacing is also quite well done and the game doesn't feel boring or a chore to progress with. Now as you're trying to survive, you'll also encounter several chests in the game that mostly hold upgrade materials for the base or could hold valuable goodies like healing packs or powerful tools like a drone shooting at zombies or calling down an airstrike. And while the special ones do feel satisfying to get, I felt the resources themselves are a really boring overall mechanic to include as standard loot, as I've become quite immune to try to get more chests, so I'd much prefer if chests remain special with useful stuff in them. Finally, as you start to feel in danger, you might be thinking about evacuating with a helicopter that spawns every couple of minutes, which is a fantastic overall mechanic I think, as it is giving you quite a bit of hope but frustration at the same time, since the helicopter spawns in random directions around you without knowing which way, and each time you try to escape it's a thrilling experience very well mimicking the panicking during a zombie apocalypse, and I found it a really fun mechanic to desperately search for a chopper before it leaves and would leave your mercenary to die. But I can also see this mechanic being a bit more annoying for those who don't care for this kind of immersion that much. All in all, that would be my quick introduction to FatalZone without going way too deep into the game, but also trying to introduce everything that's fun and unique about it. In my opinion, FatalZone seems like a really fun addition to the genre. It might not have as much unique mechanics to it like some would like, but I think the core mechanics and the gameplay loop are very satisfying to play around with, and time really flies as you play, which I think is the most important part of a bullet heaven, since let's be frank, these games aren't that complicated. It's all about staying engaged with the gameplay, which I think FatalZone accomplishes really well. I really like the different classes and build choices they let you choose from to encourage using the different weapons and passives in your missions. And while at launch, I don't think there's that much of a variety, I think there's still enough combinations and builds to have fun with for quite some time, especially if you manage to tackle the harder difficulties and level up all the different classes to level 10 to try out their specialized builds. What I didn't like that much is that some abilities don't feel that powerful in the build I tried, and it resulted in gravitating towards specific upgrades, which really hurts the variety in a game like this, since if you don't have many skills, you want to make sure all of them are quite useful and special to keep the game entertaining. But some of them, while being quite unique, they miss the mark and make the game feel a bit smaller. I personally also feel it would be much more fun if character progression had a bit more unpredictability to it, like not allowing players to cure mercenary mutations, but in exchange make them more exotic, that these mutations wouldn't be strictly good or bad, but instead alter the characters and their gameplay in ways to force the player to try different builds, like herd them towards melee weapons or specialize in drones. The character talent tree is also not perfect either, but at least I've seen a lot of interesting upgrades to increase projectile numbers, etc. that change how skills work, and I think that should be the goal of any developer making a bullet heaven, and not just giving arbitrary number upgrades to characters to increase damage or health that are just boring and will only make people complain. But overall, I had quite a lot of fun with the demo of FatalZone I was given. I'm actually looking forward to playing the full game and to see what's different and what's the end game. Hopefully it only keeps being good or even better, as I'd love to return to a zombie survivor game like this and see how it adds new things in the future. But that's it for my quick introduction video and my experience of FatalZone, everyone. Hope you liked it and gave you a good view of what's the game about. And if you like it, I encourage you to try the game out and see if it's for you or not, since the demo will be available to everyone. Thank you for watching, you all. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you the next time.